guys are aware and you signed up for our expedition that we're going to take you with us as we travel to the island of Guadalupe in Mexico to cage dive with great whites, and then to Isla Mujeres, Mexico, where we will snorkel with whale sharks, and also the Philippines, which we did last year, by the way. So I'm going to introduce you to my colleague, fellow Shark Angel, Cheryl.
Hi, everybody.
Cheryl. And we work together here at Shark Angels. And so we're excited to present this to you today. So Cheryl will be leading it and I will be answering questions. If you guys have any, please feel free to project. I will check them out in the Q&A along with just, any kind of comments, questions, no problem. We want this to be interactive as much as possible. I think we can get started.
All right, fantastic. Screen, there we go. Share.
Oh, and by the way, before I say this, before I did go to dive with great whites, I told my mother that after I came home from that trip.
Yeah, always good to kind of.
So, Mom, now you're going to kind of see what we did on that trip, which is kind of fun.
All right, so today we are going to show you two of the most iconic sharks we know of, great whites and whale sharks, and it's very different experiences. Start with great whites. I'm sorry, I just popped that up. Sorry, technology. Turn. Okay, how come oh, there we go, that's working now. All right, the great whites and whale sharks. So great whites, we both went on two different boats, and most of the boats go out of Ensenada. There are some that leave from San Diego. The two we were on were from Ensenada. So you fly into San Diego, you take a bus down to Ensenada, and then it's about an 18-hour trip to get to Guadalupe. You do it overnight. It's about 115 miles southwest of Ensenada. It's a small volcanic island. And the great white sharks are there because of a huge population of elephant seals. So I know my experience with this crossing is it was really rough. Everybody on our boat was seasick. In fact, the crew probably had the easiest 24 hours on the boat in their life because nobody ate. We barely came up to the deck. We all, you'd come up, the boat would be pitching and it'd be like, oh, I'm going back down. So we were all sick.
Agreed. The same on my boat. We were down for the count on the first night, but I will say this, for anybody that is seasick, it's still definitely worth it.
Yes.
Drugs, Dramamine, the patch, whatever it is, and
yeah.
Went to bed. But it is worth it, and you will see.
Yeah, bring your seasickness remedy of choice, but it's worth it to get through it. It's just the initial crossing, and then your boat stays put for the entire time you're there.
Exactly.
So once you're set, you're good, and then you're in with the sharks and you're fine. So we both went on different boats. So I've been on Solmar 5 to go to Socorro, but I did Guadalupe on the Nautilus Undersea. Jamie was on Solmar 5.
Which is the one on the left, the yellow and the green boat.
So on the Nautilus Undersea, it was a new boat. It was previously the Undersea Hunter. It was the second voyage on that boat, and it wasn't quite ready. And okay, this is going to sound like a first world problem, but the hot tub wasn't working. No, okay, you're laughing and it sounds silly, but the water's really kind of cold. And had I been able to sort of get in the hot tub and get warm every time, really get warm to the core, I would have been in the water more. We were very lucky in that the boat holds 18 passengers and there were only 12 of us. And there were 12 spots in the cages, which means we could be in a cage all day long until our fingers were falling off if we wanted to. It was pretty amazing. What was your trip like, Jamie?
Oh, it's the same thing. We had 18 people, 18 spots, but we had 18 people. So it's, when we first got there, everybody was, all hot and bothered to get in the cage, really excited, you get in and then you realize, whoo, this is a little chilly, right?
Yes, really
so,
is.
You suit up, you go in, which we will explain how you do that, how cage diving works. We took turns, and I think it was like 1 hour or 2 hours in the cage, and then you were out 2 hours, and then you went in, and then you were out, that kind of thing. And there was a board, and it told you who was in, and then who was up next. So it was very, very, regulated, and everybody knew where everybody was at any given time. So it was very safe.
Yeah, yeah. Like I said, we were very lucky with the low turnout on our trip, and we were always in that cage. So this is the cool thing, that even when you're dry and on the deck, you can see the sharks because they are there. They're there for those elephant seals. They're right at the surface, a lot of them. In fact, we all, of course, you have to be a certified diver to go down to 30 feet in the cage. However, you don't have to be certified to be in the surface cages. And what we all found after the first couple trips down to 30 feet is that the sharks were near the surface, and we had a great experience just in the surface cage. So I think after the first day, I don't even know that the 30-foot cage even moved. We all just stayed in it at the surface, and we're just in and out at our leisure.
Yeah, us too. So just to kind of back up a little bit, there are two types of cages. There's a surface cage where you do not have to be scuba certified. You just kind of crawl in. It's surface supplied oxygen, which we'll show you. It's called a hookah. You get in, easy peasy. The other type of cage is 30 feet down, and that you do have to be scuba certified. So you can go on this trip and not be scuba certified and still see great white sharks, which is really, really cool. The water temperature is chilly, although the visibility is spectacular. I think you can see like 100 foot.
I think it's 125 to 150 feet, they estimate. Yeah, it's easy.
Beautiful.
Right.
The wetsuit that's recommended, someone's asking, well, I'm always cold. So I wear as much as I can neoprene. 7 mil is what I would wear for sure,
Yes.
with a hood and gloves. Because remember, you're not moving. You're just kind of staying in the cage, which we'll show you.
Yeah. Whoops. Oh, there we go.
So this was on my boat, and he was Luis, the shark wrangler. He was great. Our crew on the Somar 5, I have to say, is one of the best.
What a good crew.
Yeah, really good crew. And what they do is, so you're all sitting on the surface, looking down at the water, seeing all the sharks. And the way that they get them to come close to you in the cage is by, baiting the water. And what they do is they take a piece of tuna. They don't feed the sharks a lot of food. So it's not like they're changing their behavior a lot. They're just kind of enticing them, if you will. And that's what you want, because you want the sharks to come close to you in the cage so that you can get that very cool shot, of the shark coming close to you. And you want that shot of course, everybody wants the mouth open shot. And that's why you want the bait to be like right there in front of you. And the shark is kind of grabbing for the bait. And then you just want to snap the photo or take the video, of course.
So they also get a bag of fish oil, of fish parts that is leaking fish oil. And then they've got one rope with a chunk of tuna on it. So it's not like they're really feeding the sharks. I mean, the fish oil attracts them. Again, they're there anyway because of those elephant seals. And then it's this chunk of tuna that you see that's on that rope. So this is the cage on the Solmar. So it's interesting, our cages on Nautilus were much closer to the boat. This looks like you get a little bit of a
You do, yeah.
step to get over there.
Yeah, this, I forgot his name, but he's the captain of Solmar, and he's helping out. What you do is where his feet are, you basically kind of, turn around. It's kind of like going down a ladder. And then, you put your feet on those bars there, and then you just get into the cage, and there's another ladder in there, and you just climb down. And it's two people per cage.
Oh, it's interesting. So the Nautilus cages were a little bigger. We actually could fit 4 people comfortably in those cages. So we had 12 spots. And just incidentally, so the season in Guadalupe is July to August. You're going to start getting your male sharks. And then the big females show up September to November. And these are your big 18-foot big mamas. And there's about 300 individual sharks that they've identified and that they know by name. It's by their naturally occurring markings and any kind of scars and body injury. That's how they're identified. And so there's 300 that they know of. So this again is this cages on the Solmar. So it's interesting, the whole winch thing that you got, and you're sitting on that cage, because again, it's set up a little differently on Nautilus.
Yeah, so the guy on the left is Lawrence Groth. I'm not sure if any of you guys know him, but was Shark Man. He was a legend. And he would take a lot of us out shark diving. The picture on the right is actually my husband, Jack, with Lawrence. And what he would do is those cages are the 30-foot ones. So they would be raised and lowered by this big cable kind of a system up, down. And we were allowed to sit on top of the cages and not have to get inside the cages, which was really interesting. And the sharks, honestly, you know, they just don't care about you. They're just swimming by you, no big deal. And the cool thing is that when Lawrence had the camera, he would be videotaping us, and there was a live feed up to the surface of the boat. So you could always watch what was going on below. So, you know, everybody would get
cool.
Yeah, when, you know, like a shark would come by or whatever. So it was an interesting experience just to kind of be out there with no bars, no cage or anything like that. I'm not sure if you can do that now.
No, okay, you definitely can't now. So a couple years ago, there were 2 incidences where sharks managed to get in the cage or partially in the cage. We're not talking about the one that happened last summer. We can address that one separately, but this in 2, in that the sharks were not fatally injured. But it did result in a lot of new regulations happening in Mexico with these cage diving. So you can no longer get out of the cage. You will be yanked out of the cage if your camera, your hand, your foot, anything goes out of the boundary of those bars. So they've gotten very strict about that because of these. They also reduced the size, the spaces between the bars because of those incidences.
Right, right.
So this is actually a little video of this Nautilus. So when you do this, you do not wear fins, and you are very, excuse me, you're very heavily weighted. Sorry. So you're wearing a lot of weight. They don't want you bouncing around in that cage. So I want to say like 25 pounds I had on. I mean, I would have sunk. I wasn't in the cage. And they hand you that hookah. So everything is from the surface, which is why you don't have to be a certified diver. You're not having to worry about your buoyancy or anything like that. And again, I feel like looks like it's a little easier to get into this cage on Nautilus. You're just stepping right down into the ladder. There's no big gap like on Solmar. And that's the same thing with the submersible cage. It's sort of right there in that same position. And this was my first time down in there. And the thing you're going to notice is that I'm right down there, and then there's a shark right there. I mean, they're there. You really don't have to wait that long for them to show up. They are beautiful and they're curious. Like we had some swimming very close to the cage, just kind of circling around us. And it's pretty incredible to watch, actually.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's just, and you know, everyone always asks, well, aren't you afraid? Were you scared? And you know what? I really wasn't. I don't know if it's just, you know, the sense of security from the cage versus swimming with other types of sharks, which of course I've done. But no, I mean, I never felt frightened or scared or any of that. It was just, like Cheryl said, just majestic, amazing, awe-inspiring. Seeing these animals up close is just one of the most, everybody needs to do it. It's just fantastic.
It really is. And just so incidentally, these females can reach up to 20 feet and between 4,200 and 5,000 pounds. So the females tend to be bigger. The average size on the female is going to be about 15 to 16 feet, and the average size on the male about 11 to 13 feet. They've discovered in 2014, they think they can live as many as 70 years. The men live longer. They think the males live up to 73 years, with the females living about 40 years. They also swim about 35 miles an hour, and the deepest recorded dive is 3,900 feet.
How deep?
3,900.
Wow, that's crazy.
And I don't know why they do that. I mean, that's the thing. You can tag a shark, and that will tell you where the sharks are going. It doesn't tell you why they're going there. So they do suspect, I mean, great white sharks are one of those sharks that have to keep moving to be able to breathe. So one of the things they've been observed doing is they will swim completely to the top, face downward, and then the gravity pulling them downward allows them to stop swimming and still breathe.
Someone's asking, do we bring our own wetsuit? Yes, I definitely bring my own because
You can rent it. Most of them do have it. They ask you in advance if you're going to need to rent gear,
Exactly.
and it is available.
Yeah, I mean, yes. It depends on, you know, your preference, but I prefer my own.
Yeah, me too. Again, so these are the Solmar cages.
Yep. So you can kind of see that space in there. And back in the day when I went, yes, we kind of did hang outside the cage just to get that perfect shot, you know, when the shark came up. And again, these pictures that you see in this presentation, if they're not credited, they're all photos that I took or Cheryl took. So we kind of wanted to give you the experience from just a regular person, not, you know, anyone that's, you know, this famous photographer or whatever, just kind of, or, you know, just what you could expect to see if you were to go on this trip.
Yep, and this, like, my camera was a Canon in an underwater housing, just a point and shoot. So I did not have any big fancy camera. Jamie has a big fancy camera. I do not, but you're still able to get shots like this because the sharks are coming close. The water visibility is great, and so you're able to come back with really great shots. You don't have to be a professional photographer to capture this experience really well.
Yeah. One of the things that I always like to tell people about this experience is that, you know, you're looking around, you're seeing these sharks, they disappear, but then all of a sudden they're just there. It's like they're so big but so silent, and it's just amazing because the ocean is a noisy place. You hear lots of things going on, but all of a sudden, you know, you could hear, you know, whales, dolphins, all those kinds of things. But these sharks, when they just come up and look at you, you're like, wow, that is just amazing.
Yeah, it really is. And like I said, this is Jamie's shot, so I think this is probably a better camera to get this close. But
Yeah.
I still got some pretty good shots.
Yeah, and my mother asked me, because she's painting some sharks for us, by the way. These lines on the shark is actually from the sun. It's the reflection of the sun on the shark. And you can kind of see how sharks are counter shaded. And Cheryl, you can explain what that means.
Yeah, so I mean, you can definitely see the demarcation between the gray on the top and the white underneath. And that again is sort of a camouflage thing. So looking down on them, they tend to blend more with the depths of the ocean, and looking up, the white makes them less noticeable. Of course, everything is always silhouetted against the sun, but that's the whole purpose of that counter shading. And as we mentioned before, you know, they're right at the surface, which is why most of us didn't even bother with the 30-foot cage after the first day. We were like, oh, let's just stay at the surface because this is where the sharks are. So this one here is one of the ones that actually caught the tuna. So again, as we mentioned, it's a large chunk of tuna. It is tied to the rope, so there are no hooks involved. They generally will pull it so that the shark doesn't usually get it, just to kind of guide their path a little bit. And again, there's new rules. There are very strict regulations about how close you can bring that piece of tuna to the cage for the safety of both the sharks and the divers. But occasionally they do catch it. So this guy is enjoying his little snack. And so this is normally what you'd see. It's sort of in their swim path. Again, they're not expending a lot of energy to attack this piece of tuna. So a lot of people are saying, oh, you know, you're going to change their feeding habits and stuff. And that's something we'll talk a little more about. But this is just in their swim path. It's there, and they're opportunistic. Why are they going to pass up a snack if they can just grab it? So they do try. And incidentally, so sharks, as far as reproduction, just give you a little interesting stuff here. Males reach sexual maturity at 26 years of age and females at 33 years of age. So that's a long time before they'll be able to reproduce. So females, the gestation, we think, again, it's hard to pinpoint it, between 12 and 18 months. And they have between 2 and 14 pups every other year. So this is really not a very high reproduction rate. So when you start taking sharks out at an excessive rate, they're not replenishing fast enough. So that's one of the reasons that great white sharks are at a point of being endangered. So we don't actually know where the pupping grounds are. So they do see pregnant females here in Guadalupe, and they don't know where they're giving birth. So this one here, you can see there's little black and white striped fish. Those are pilot fish. Then they all sort of seem to hang out with the great whites. They have their own little posse, and it's a mutually beneficial relationship. So those pilot fish are good for keeping the sharks free of parasites. They also will benefit from the scraps of food that the shark eats. And in return, they get protection because, you know, nobody's going to mess with you when your best friend is a great white. So you always see them hanging around the sharks. Now we're getting a little artsy with our black and white photo.
Yeah, this is a photo I took, and I just thought it was really interesting the way that they kind of come up from the bottom of the cage to kind of just check you out. And I just thought it was interesting. And you can kind of see their ampullae lorenzini on
Yeah,
there.
it's a good way to see it.
Yep. Hope everybody knows what that is. Gel
Well, if you don't, they're gel-filled pores. All those dots on the snout, they are electroreceptors. So sharks use these to actually sense the magnetic pull of the earth. They use it as a navigation guide, and it also detects electromagnetic impulses and stuff. So actually, your brain waves, things like that. So when I dive in a shark tank at an aquarium, when we get a nervous diver, that energy, that heart rate and all of that, all of our sharks will go to the other side of the tank like, okay, we don't want to be anywhere near that. So that's one of those things, and they use that for hunting and for finding prey. So actually, this guy looks really thoughtful. So this is where I thought I'd talk about shark intelligence. So scientists do think that great whites are fairly intelligent. And it's hard to tell, but some of the things they use as a marker of intelligence is cooperative behavior. So they have seen sharks working together. There was an incident in South Africa where a biologist observed 7 great whites moving a whale carcass that was partially beached, moving it off the beach out into deeper water so they could all feed on it. And they've also seen great whites sort of using one to distract the seal while the other ambushes it from underneath. So the cooperative behavior, the fact that they do seem to possess some curiosity and exploratory abilities in some ways. So we think that they are fairly smart on the range of sharks anyway, and that group behavior and that curiosity they show. So this one here, you can clearly see some bite marks. Bite marks happen a lot during mating, during competition between males for females. But sharks have always been known for their remarkable healing properties, and they've actually now been able to sort of validate that scientifically. So in 2019, they were actually able to sequence the shark genome. So just to give you some perspective, that's 4.63 billion pairs of genes. So it took 13 years to sequence the human genome. The shark genome is 1.5 times bigger than a human genome. And what they found is they found a lot of genes that were specifically tied to healing and to blood clotting. The other thing they found is that they have genes that are responsible for maintaining the stability of the genome and reducing mutations. So when you start getting mutations, that's when you wind up with things like cancer. So this doesn't mean that sharks don't get cancer. It just means they are far less likely than we are and most other vertebrates because of these special healing properties and the stability of their genome. So I do need to feel, and you do feel the need to mention here that this remarkable healing property and cancer resistance is not transferable to us. So if we consume shark cartilage or shark parts, it doesn't make us immune to cancer. It doesn't give us any health benefit. In fact, there are toxic levels of mercury, urea, and all kinds of other nasty chemicals that mean you really shouldn't be eating shark meat or shark parts. This is another photo of the shark going for the bait.
Yeah, I just thought it was beautiful.
Go ahead. Yeah, this is a good photo. This is yours, right?
Yeah, I just thought it was just really pretty in the whole body. As far as with the stricter relations, can great pictures still be captured? Yeah, I'm sure that they can be.
Yes, absolutely. Oh, there's no impediment to getting pictures. Yeah. I mean, all of my photos, we were under strict orders not to have your camera, your body parts, anything leave that cage. It doesn't impede your experience. It really doesn't. I mean, the bars are big enough. You can put your camera in there. You can see, and you're getting beautiful shots. Plus, the sharks come close enough, so it does not impede your experience at all.
Yeah, and nothing. No little fish swam inside my cage. Did any little fish inside your? No.
Nope, no visitors.
No, I know.
In this picture, you can actually see this is clearly a male shark. So you can tell that by the presence of the claspers, by those pelvic fins here. So males have 2 claspers, but they use only 1 at a time. There's more on that in my whole sharks and sex presentation. So.
Yeah.
Oh, so here's this little video. This is from my boat, from Nautilus in Guadalupe. Okay. So just did want to mention, oh, I didn't realize I had music on this.
That's all right.
I listened to it, the sound off. I didn't realize there's music, so musical accompaniment.
Yeah, you can kind of see the shark right there.
Yep, shark with his posse.
So Mom, you want to come on a great white shark trip with me next time? Well, she gets really seasick, so that's probably out.
Right. Oh, yeah, the seasickness thing is a big thing.
Yeah.
But I do want to address, a lot of people ask whether it is ethical to be diving with sharks, whether it's ethical to use bait and things like that. Well, here's one thing. So they're there for the elephant seals. A scientist found out in the 80s that a 66-pound meal of blubber would sustain a shark for up to 6 weeks. So they literally have to get one seal and they're good for quite a while. And those pups, an elephant seal pup weighs 75 pounds. Those are big babies. Those are the easier ones for them to catch. The females are about 10 feet and 1,500 pounds. The male elephant seals get to 13 feet and 4,500 pounds. So they're actually a big battle for a shark to go after one of those seals. So what they tend to do is they try to bite them in the hindquarters to immobilize them, and they wait for them to bleed to death, and then it's an easier meal. But if that's what they're feasting on, this little chunk of tuna is not going to deter them from those natural habits. And it's also not enough to sustain them. It's just a little snack. It's kind of like after you've eaten, but there's cookies sitting there and you're not really hungry, but it's there. So you're going to have the snack anyway. So this is not disrupting their natural behaviors. It's not stopping them from feeding. The other thing is that even though great white sharks are listed as critically endangered and their trade is protected by CITES internationally, poaching still happens. And the fact that these dive boats, these ecotourism boats are in these areas, you're stopping poachers from being in those areas. You're also creating shark advocates, because everyone who goes on one of these trips and sees these amazing animals wants to protect them after this experience. There's also, these boats are creating jobs for people who would otherwise might be fishing and poaching. We've seen that in numerous areas around the world where ecotourism starts and you get former fishermen taking people to see the sharks. You're creating more value. The sharks are worth far more alive than dead. So we have been on these trips. We definitely support them. We know there's been issues. And we applaud those companies that are really taking steps to make sure it's safe for both the sharks and the divers. So that's pretty important. Anything else you'd like to add about the great whites, Jamie, before we head on to whale sharks?
No, I think it's time to move. I think we've seen our great whites, and now we need to hop on the airplane. Yeah, we wish. And let's go.
We wish, yes. All right. Oops, why does it do that? Sorry. Okay, sorry, me and technology. There we go, whale sharks. So this is Isla Mujeres. So we're gonna take you both to Donsol and Isla Mujeres. But one of the things you'll notice is you've got 2 whale sharks in this picture. And that is one of the characteristics of Isla Mujeres, is they get one of the largest aggregations of whale sharks in the world that you are able to just easily see. It's pretty amazing. So Isla Mujeres is about a 1 to 3 hour boat ride from Cancun. And the whale sharks, sorry, where's my notes here? Whale sharks are there from May to September. You wind up around the full moon in July, August. You also get giant mantas, which I unfortunately have not experienced, but I think it would be kind of incredible to get giant mantas. And you've been,
oh yes.
Oh, I need to go during that time.
Yeah, and the visibility is not as clear because obviously there's a lot of stuff in the water. That's why they're there. So you just kind of, you just deal with it. But we saw lots of whale sharks and lots of mantas, and it was just unbelievable.
That would be amazing.
Yeah.
We also last year went to Donsol to dive with the whale sharks in the Philippines. So Donsol is one of almost 7,000 islands in the Philippines, and the whale sharks are there between November and June. So this is the 2 pictures. So Isla Mujeres, they are very much closer to the surface. That's that very blue picture. It's very easy to see them. So the procedure in Isla Mujeres, when your boat arrives, you see fins in all directions. So you just jump in and hang out, and the whale sharks just sort of come to you. There's so many of them. In fact, you just hang out. And I was there in the water once, and everyone from the boat started yelling, lift your feet, lift your feet. And I'm like, okay. It was kind of a moot point because the fin came up like this beside me, and I rolled off the shark's back. It just came up from the deep. I didn't even see it coming. There's so many of them, they literally bump into you. The experience in the Philippines is a little different. They were a little deeper I mean, not deep by any means. We're talking what, maybe 30 feet as opposed to being right at the surface. So
Yes.
you weren't seeing fins on the surface. So the procedure there is you get in your boat, you have a guy who gets up on the roof of the boat and is a spotter, and he's looking for these sharks. So when they find the sharks, the captain will get you a little bit of the head of the shark, you jump out, and then you try to swim with the sharks for as long as you can. So just to give you a little idea, relatively speaking, these sharks are not speedy. They swim about 3 miles an hour, but the average human swims about 2 miles an hour.
Yes.
Michael Phelps swims 5.5 miles an hour. So Michael Phelps can outswim a whale shark. The rest of us, you swim with them as long as you can, and then they outpace you.
And you're like, oh my God, I can't
and you repeat.
Yeah. Yeah, no, even though they're not really swimming so fast, it's because they're so big, and that tail just is like this. You're still swimming. But
yeah, and it's faster than we swim. So, you know, you get more of a workout going to Donsal because you're trying to swim at them as long as you can. Whereas in Mexico, you swim a little, you wait, another one comes along. It's kind of like if you miss the bus, there's always another one a few minutes later. So in Donsal, I mean, they do get a large number, but you're not seeing the congregation that you are in Mexico. So they, in 2019, this was kind of cool. They found over 100 new whale sharks that they had never seen before. And a lot of them were juvenile. So what they are concluding is that Tikal Pass, which is very near Donsal, they think may be a pupping ground for whale sharks, which is kind of amazing because they really they've never been able to figure out where whale sharks have their pups. So because of the presence of very young juveniles, they think that Tikal might be one of the places that it happens. So the World Wildlife Fund has identified over 1,700 different whale sharks in the Philippines, and 40% of them normally go to Donsal. The other thing about whale sharks is that there is a genetic similarity between all whale sharks all over the world. And what that shows us is these guys are known for making epic journeys. They can swim up to 40 miles in a day. And the longest recorded journey of a whale shark was over 12,000 miles over 2.5 years. So they think the reason they're doing this, they're generally very solitary unless they come together for eating and breeding, and then they go their separate ways. But because they do make these epic journeys, they think that is one of the reasons there's this genetic similarity all over the world. And also their numbers are small. So this is a good shot of a whale shark's mouth. So the whale shark's mouth is about 5 feet wide. And if anyone knows Jamie, that's bigger than Jamie. So Jamie could fit kind of right in there. And the whale shark, so his eye is about the size of a golf ball, but their brain is about the size of a pack of cigarettes. So they're beautiful and they're really cool, but they're not the smartest fish on the scale there. So this guy, that last picture was him just sort of moving forward. So whale sharks actually feed in 3 ways. They are filter feeders, and there's 3 methods. So that last one we saw was just sort of passively swimming and allowing the water to flow through their gill rakers. This here is a vertical floating. It's another way. They actually can suck the water into their mouth, and they stay vertical and they barely move. And they're just sucking all of that plankton in through their gills. And then the third way they feed is sort of a combination where they swim forward and they're sucking at the same time, which just gets the water through the gills at a higher velocity. So if they're really hungry, that's what they're going to be doing.
This photo, by the way, go back for a second. Yep. So that photo, my husband actually took that, and this was one of those instances where the whale shark was vertically feeding. And if you get that chance to see that in the wild, I think you encounter something incredible. The first trip that we took, we saw this vertical feeding. The second trip we took, we did not. But when they are like this, they're basically motionless. So you just circle around them as long as they just hang out and feed. And it's kind of like they're in this trance, you know, where they're just like, yum, yum. It's like, you know,
food coma.
Yeah, food coma. You're just like stuffing your face, you know, with cookies and candy. You're just like, oh, this is so good. That's kind of like what it was. And it's very impressive to see this animal just kind of stopped, and you can hang out and swim around them and look at them and check them out and stuff like that. And that's what we were able to do.
Right. And what I mentioned, you know, about that brain being really small, I have seen people writing accounts of like, oh, the shark, we looked eye to eye and it looked into my soul. No, I'm sorry. There's just, They're beautiful, but they're really not, they're not intelligent. So when this thing is coming at you and it's like a bus coming at you, you get out of their way. They're not going to move because you're in their path. They don't seem to react to people much at all. I've never had one sort of acknowledge or do react to me in any way. So they're amazing to swim with, but you get out of their way because they're really big.
You do. I mean, but they do see you because I've had.
They do see you, but it's not, I don't feel like it's an interaction in a way. Like,
yeah, I've had the eye like look at me and move and kind of that, but no, it definitely, it doesn't move. You got to move out of its way.
yeah. Oh, and as far as feeding, so these guys eat plankton as their main food source, but they'll also eat small things like shrimp, sardine, anchovies, mackerel, squid, and fish eggs. So scientists have observed these guys are really patient. They will wait up to 14 hours for the fish to spawn and then gobble up the eggs. So they clearly really like the fish eggs. They also are one of the 2 known omnivores, which means they will eat grasses and plants as well as animal matter. So they've actually, scientists have seen them deliberately eating seagrasses, and they think they may get as much as 50% of their diet from plants and algae.
Now that's a good party question.
If you're a real nerd and it's a geeky party, yes.
Well, it's good, 'cause a lot of people don't know that.
No, people don't actually. It's one of those little known things about whale sharks. So the other thing that people don't realize is that even though you can't see them, whale sharks have teeth. In fact, they may have thousands of teeth, but they are the size of the head of a matchstick. And scientists have no idea why they have them because they really don't have any use for them that we can see. They don't bite or grip or tear, but they do have teeth. And the other thing is when they're filtering in all this stuff, sometimes the gill rakers get clogged up. So whale sharks have been observed coughing. So kind of like a cat coughing up a fur ball, they will do that to clear those gill rakers.
Well, by the way, I don't know if this ever happened to you, but I was swimming once with a whale shark and it pooped on me.
Oh, yuck. No, I did not have that experience.
That happened. Yeah,
it happens. It's nature, but yuck.
In a cloud of poop. It was really kind of disgusting.
Yes, that sounds really disgusting. Thank you for sharing, Jamie.
It was funny though.
Well, this is, okay, on a better note, this is a really cool video. This is a whale shark feeding, doing that vertical feeding we were talking about.
This was shot on a GoPro.
Nice.
And you can see me kind of in the corner there, just to kind of get a scale of how big this
So
is.
these guys can process 1,500 gallons of water in an hour, and they eat 21 pounds of plankton a day.
Yeah, it's a lot.
It is a lot.
Yeah. A lot of people, you know, I've only gone scuba diving with whale sharks in the Galapagos, but every other place it's always been snorkeling.
Yes.
Right, and I just think it's kind of the conditions and what the country allows.
It is, and a lot of it's because they're right at the surface, and it's not even necessary to be on scuba.
Exactly.
It also means that people can regulate your behavior better. What happened in Mexico, so the first time I went to Isla Mujeres was about 10 years ago. There were about 6 boats. We were very widely spread out.
Oh yeah.
Very civilized experience. When I went 4 years later, there were probably 40 boats, way too many people in the water, idiots trying to ride the whale sharks, because the guides and the people in the boat, the people who ran the boat were not policing their people well enough. And because of people behaving poorly, they have now cracked down with more and more regulations. So, I mean, part of the ecotourism is wonderful as long as it's not causing damage to the animals. So Mexico has taken, and we'll talk about some of that in a little bit, they have taken more steps to help prevent some of that ridiculous behavior from happening. So Jamie, would you like to tell us about your whale shark?
So this is my shark selfie, which probably took me about 2 hours to get right. The picture on the left, you can see I kept missing his face and his head because he was so big. And I just kept getting random parts of his body. And then finally I hit the jackpot, which is the picture on the right. I was so excited. So this is my shark selfie.
It's pretty good, actually. I mean, one of the challenging things about taking pictures underwater is you have to sort of anticipate where the fish is going to be rather than where they are. I have lots and lots of tail shots
Right.
in my photos because they move faster than you anticipate. And this is an even bigger challenge, being such a big animal, trying to get that head. So well done. Nice selfie in the end.
Thank you. We have a quick question about the fuel exhaust while snorkeling. No, we've never really encountered, because kind of when they cruise out there, they kind of just, the boats hang out. They're not really, you know, motoring around a lot. I mean, they may motor just to place you in the shark's path so that you can get in the water with them, but there's not a lot of fumes, like say, for example, when you're traveling out on a scuba boat, right, and you're sitting at the back with all your gear, it's the hot sun, and you smell that exhaust, and then you're like, oh boy, I need to get in the water quick. It's not like that at all.
No, and in Mexico, they actually, you'll get out there and they've stopped the boat. And all of them are, one of the biggest injuries that happen to whale sharks is propellers chewing up their fins. There's a lot, you see a lot of damaged fins sometimes. And most of these operators know enough that when they start to get to the area where the whale sharks are, they will slow down and watch for them. And then as soon as they get to a part, they're going to stop. So you wind up with less boat traffic. As far as they get there, they stop and they're going to sit there for a number of hours while you're having your whale shark experience. So as we said, they're swimming a little faster than we do. You swim alongside them as long as you can, but then you move because that tail is going back and forth. And when you've got a 20-ton animal that's 40 feet long with a tail going back and forth, that can cause you some injury if you're in that path. And this gives you a little perspective. This is you, yes?
Yes.
So this is a Jamie. So these whale sharks are probably 5 times a Jamie.
Yeah, they're the size of a school bus, about 60 feet long.
Yeah, about 40. 60 is the 60 I think is on the high end. I'd say they're about 40 at most. Average about 18. So you get some juveniles, well, the baby ones, like 14 to 18, but. So whale sharks are endangered and their populations are decreasing worldwide. They have been protected in the Philippines since 1998. This is a Philippine shot by Matt Neeson, who was one of the guys on our dive trip. Their numbers have declined by more than 50% over the last 75 years. It's due to illegal fishing, entrapment in fishing gear, collisions with boats. And even though they have been protected since 1998 in the Philippines, and it's now become a big tourist industry, there's poaching that still happens. I mean, one of the women on our trip walked into the downtown area to pick something up, and she came back all upset because she saw a guy with a dried whale shark fin. And as soon as he saw her, he took off because she clearly reacted. So poaching is still occurring. It's still a huge problem. There's a lot of fishing that happens for these guys in Oman and China. But ecotourism is one of the things that really helps. So a lot of the fishermen who used to be fishing for whale sharks are now part of tourism and taking people out to see these sharks. We opted to go to Donsol because these sharks are there naturally and that is not interfered with. There is another place in the Philippines called Oslab where people dive with whale sharks. It's a little more controversial there because they are actually hand-fed shrimp. So they are getting conditioned to being fed by people. It keeps some of their sharks there longer than they might normally stay. And we have no idea what the ecological ramifications are of that. We don't know how it affects the whale sharks eating a minimized diet of just shrimp. We don't know how it affects the areas where they're not going, because one of the things that sharks do, Jamie mentioned shark poop. Shark poop is actually fertilizer for the rest of the reef and all those other animals. So it really helps the reef areas where these sharks are going. So we opted not to go to Oslab and go to Donsol instead. I mean, the plus side of Oslab is all of these fishermen who were killing sharks are now showing people how beautiful they are. But because we don't know the long-term ramifications of interfering with their behavior in a way, we decided that wasn't the option for us. So Mexico also, because of the zoo that the whole whale shark tourism thing has become, they have taken more steps to help protect the sharks. So it's become the experience has become a lot more restrictive. We as divers used to be able to go into the water in a skin and our fins and our mask. You now have to wear a life jacket. You can't dive down. You have to stay at the surface. You cannot use flash photography. And they've also, another protective measure they've taken is they've insisted on propeller protectants so that the sharks won't get their fins chewed up. So ecotourism is a really wonderful thing and a wonderful way to help sharks as long as it's not causing them danger. So it has to be modulated in a way that it benefits everyone.
And this is also a really great family trip. So if you have, you know, young kids or whatever, like Logan, mom, you could take the family there, because it's just snorkel. You know, just put the kids over the side and let them swim with the whale shark. No, I'm just kidding. But it is something that you can do with the family.
Yeah,
and
pretty amazing.
you don't have to be a certified diver. So it's just mask fin snorkel.
Yep.
Get in the water.
One of the ways that you can help these endangered sharks, citizen science. So a left side shot is the desired shot. So all of these spots that you see on the whale sharks are just like human fingerprints. They are unique to each individual, and it can help to identify them. So what they have is called the World Book for Whale Sharks. So if you get a really nice, clear left side photo of a shark, you can upload your photo and it can be put into the database. They can see if it corresponds to any of the sharks in the database, and you can get the history of where that shark has been sighted. It's pretty cool. And one of the reasons we need to do this, figuring out where these sharks are going, is ways to protect them. You know, we know that some of these big aggregations, but if we figure out other things such as where are they going for pupping, you know, we need more ways of protecting them in more areas to protect and patrol. So I hope you guys are now excited to go dive with sharks someday, and that you learn something about these two amazing, iconic animals. So a couple other ways that you can help sharks. Jamie, would you like to talk about our Adopt a Shark program?
We have an Adopt a Shark program. We have small sharks, which you see on the top. The package comes with your plush of your choice, 5 species available. You get a certificate personalized with your name and the name of your shark, a gift card, and a sticker of the species. The bottom package is the deluxe version. It's free shipping in the US, by the way, and you get a tote bag, again, a certificate with a fact card and a sticker. We also have specialized gift cards, so Mother's Day is coming up if anybody's interested. We are giving away a free reusable bag, so everybody get on that promotion right away. It's great. But we just launched it on Sunday. So again, you get a Adopt a Shark and the free bag. We also have virtual shark adoptions as well, so that you get to name your shark and be listed on our website, but you do not get any goods. You know, there's no actual merchandise. But again, it's a great donation, and you still do get your name on the website.
And I also want to mention one thing. So we have these really cute stuffed animals, but you know, we're a couple of nerds, and every time we look at them, we're like, oh, he's cute, but he doesn't have enough gills, or oh, he's cute, but the fin isn't quite right. Well, it's a stuffed animal. Well, we are working on designing our own stuffed animals. So we are going to have a brand new shark coming out this summer, and I'm not going to tell you what it is, because we're going to give you some hints to roll it out, and we'll probably offer some prizes or discounts on the first ones being sold if you guessed our new shark. But we are super excited about it, so keep your eye open this summer for our new shark coming. And then I have one more thing to talk about. I am making shark print face masks. So in this world of having to wear masks, you might as well show your love for sharks along the way. So 10% goes to Shark Angels, and I'm also donating 1 to a healthcare professional for every one that I sell. If you are interested in ordering face masks, they are $10 each plus shipping, and you can email me directly at cheryl@sharkangels.com. So do you guys have any questions for us?
We have a couple questions. So Thomas asked, any suggestions for camera setups for these trips? Best angles for better pictures? That question might be good for Marty when we talk to him on Thursday, because he is a professional photographer, and he probably shot the first great white shark that was on film, actually, a long time ago, but he's great. As far as I would say, the corner of the shark cage is the best, and I would say to go, you know, early in the morning or late at night when nobody else is in the cage, so you have the cage to yourself. Those are my pointers.
Okay, well, that caveat, you're not actually diving late at night. You're only diving during daylight hours. So that means late in the day, not late at night. Just to make sure people know you're not doing night dives in Guadalupe with the sharks.
Yeah, till they allow you, till it's, you know, over. And that's kind of my recommendation. Again, you can talk to Marty maybe on Thursday and ask him what his recommendation is, his camera setup for that. Any other questions? Okay, there's an yep, we got that. Did you use lights on your video camera, Cheryl?
Did I use lights on my video camera? No big strobe things, because I don't really know how to use those. I had the flash and just what was on my camera. I mean, the ambient light is actually really good because you're at the surface. So you really don't need fill light or any of that stuff. You're getting amazing shots just because you're so close to the top anyway. Oops, sorry, I have a cat scratching the couch here.
And just to let you guys know, we are on social media. There was actually a last slide there to let you know.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. We are on Instagram, Pinterest, Facebook, Twitter. If you have any questions, let us know. We're going to be introducing a new type of series called Dockside Chats, where we will be speaking with shark legends like Andy from Shark Week, Andy Brandy Casagrande, if you guys know him, ABC, Joe Romero, Christina Zanato, Howard and Michelle Hall, Marty Schneiderman. Marty is starting on Thursday. And yeah, we hope you guys will join us. And if you have any questions on that, let us know, because that will also be kind of an interactive type of a presentation. We'll be kind of interviewing him to kind of get the lowdown behind the scenes take on that. Anyway, so we hope you guys will join us when we go shark diving.
Yes. Oh, and someone was mentioning about the face masks. So I have not put them on the website yet because it is me making them by myself and I don't want to get inundated with orders. Oh, I have a friend here, sorry. That's Cormac. So you can email me directly at Cheryl@Shark Angels, and you're getting in on it first. I've not put them on Etsy or eBay yet because, like I said, I want to be able to fill the orders within 3 or 4 days and not get overwhelmed. And if I have to put them on Etsy and eBay, they're going to be more expensive. So you're getting in on the early selling of the shark print mask. So it's Cheryl@SharkAngels.com for those.
So thank you so much, everyone. We're getting some great feedback. We appreciate it, and we do offer these presentations to other, local dive groups, classrooms, etc. So let us know if you're interested. Thank you all, and I guess.
Thank you so much, guys.
I guess we're done.
Thanks. Have a good day.
Thanks, everyone.